I want to talk about building a better future. And there probably has never been a time when we haven't had more focus on that than where we are today with coronavirus. So let's have a think about what we can each do, not about coronavirus generally, but about building a better future for ourselves and for each of us. Back in 1995, I had a little diversion from my career in the insurance industry. I was headhunted by TSB, the bank, to set up a new project, a new product, and to help them deliver something to the country as a whole out of the insurance industry that was a little bit different. It was exciting. I thought, I've finally got something I can get my teeth into and call my own. And so I moved myself, my family. I had at the time a 3-month-old baby girl, so it's quite a big disruption. And we moved to South Wales and off went the project. That was great. And then Lloyd's bought TSB. And I remember in the morning, turned the radio on, and the announcement of Lloyd's buying TSB came on the radio, and my wife said to me, what does that mean? And I said, I suspect it means that my boss will say, don't worry. And my boss's boss will tell me that we don't know what it means yet. And that if I don't stand up and make clear who I am and what skills I can bring to this new organisation, that I won't have a job in a few years' time. I went into the office, and my boss called me into his office, and he said, don't worry. And his boss came in and said, we don't know what it means. And I thought, okay, 2 out of 3, that's a signal. I need to do the third one too. And so I spent time over the next week or two really getting to understand the signals within the bank of what was happening as a result of the merger and where can I add value. And I could have reacted by trying to tell everybody everything I could do. The kind of, those of you who remember the television series a long time ago, and some of you weren't born, but Give Us a Job, remember that? I've been sent on a diversion, just as the country has been sent on a diversion over the last few days with coronavirus. Changes things, changes the way you think about things. And I also think, let's just talk about signposts for a moment. Let's think about how they work. I drove here today from Chepstow, South Wales, where I still live. There's a happy end to the story I started. I'll come to it later. I travelled from Chepstow. I had to get on the M4. I got on the M4 headed towards the M5. And when I get to the M5 junction, I'm faced with a choice. And the signposts, big blue things on the side of the road, they say the Midlands and the South West. That's a bit confusing to begin with. And London and Bristol. Well, I know that Warwick isn't near London and Bristol, so I'm going to take the other option, take that option. Now I've got, as the road divides again, the South West turn right, the Midlands turn left. Those signs are not telling me how to get to Warwick School. They're not telling me what my future is exactly. They're telling me I'm on the right road. And all through my life, I've had to be looking for the signals, the signs that other things give us about, am I on the right road right now, or am I on the wrong road? And if I'm on the wrong road, where do I turn? How do I change that? But back in my Lloyd's TSB days, when this merger happened and I'm now left with this situation that I have to find and create a role for myself, I realised also that the signposts I put out to the world changed the way that they perceive me and what I can bring. So we have to think really carefully about what are the signposts we're putting out. What does the tie we're wearing tell us about the school we go to, for example? What are the first impressions that we make? We're going to hear some really interesting stories about challenge and difficulty and overcoming that over the course of this evening. But listen out for the things they tell you that were signposts to what was about to happen and how that helped to make things go better for them. We know when we're following the signposts on the road, that you know, they're big and they're blue on the motorway, they're big and they're green on the A roads, but they're quite often quite small and white and black against white on B roads and back roads and street signs for the local area. And they're designed, they've been thought through. We don't have to be big on the motorway because the traffic's moving quickly. You don't have long to read them, so they don't have many words on. And that was the other lesson I learned in my Lloyd's TSB experience, was that if I went and talked to people about all the things I could do, they got bored. If I talked to them about the one thing they wanted done, they were really interested. So I had to know what they wanted done, and that meant I had to listen. And then I could put the right things together. But there's another problem, and it's this. Most of the time, most of what we see is coming at us like a tsunami of information. We have to pick out the right things. The government's challenge, right now, we're in the middle of March in 2020, right now their challenge is to get good communication about what we need to do to keep ourselves safe. We can have all sorts of discussions about whether the exact detail of what they're doing is right or wrong. But what I think they are doing quite well now is getting the communication about what we need to do. And that's why this hall isn't as full tonight as perhaps it might have been. But I'm really grateful that you have come tonight, and I hope you enjoy everything you hear. Signposting who you are, what you do is really important, but we can do more to build a better future. It's not enough. Because there's us as well. I chose this picture because it's my best side. But who we are, how we turn up in the world, what we have to give is so important that actually looking after ourselves is vital too. Another date in history, the 4th of December 2011. My mother, who'd been ill for 4 or 5 years, had a bad stroke, passed away. She was the woman who had inspired me most of her life. She was the daughter of a suffragist. She was the daughter of a lawyer. And she was quite precise in a lot of what she did. But she was very principled as well. And one of the things, I probably know more about my mother than most people do about their mothers for a reason. She used to write letters. She wrote letters pretty much every month to a group of people that she worked with in the war. She worked in London in the War Office and in logistics. She was shipping fuel around the country to make sure the army didn't run out. Her mother, my grandmother, was in Glasgow at the time doing something similar to make sure the doctors didn't run out of fuel in Glasgow. And, you know, I don't think my grandmother ever ran out of fuel, and I think it was mostly because my mother was making sure it got to Glasgow, but we'll never really know that. But she was, when she left the War Office at the end of the war, and they shipped her back to Manchester, where my father was, and it was everything. A lot of time. Jobs were done by people who hadn't historically done them, and a lot of it was designed by the government. And I think, you know, some of that time is with us again. It's interesting to see how history comes around. But she went back to Manchester and she wanted to keep in touch with the people she'd worked with, and so they set up what's called a correspondence magazine. So she would write a letter every month and give an update of what had been happening in the family, and what she was thinking, and what was happening in the world, and what she was thinking about that too. That letter would go in a folder, and it would go around the group of people that she'd worked with, and each of them would read it. They'd make notes in the margin, and it would come back to her at the end of that month. She would get the letter back, she'd pull it out, she'd see the questions, and she'd write another letter, and off that would go around the loop. It was a Facebook group before the internet. It was very quick, but it was doing the same sort of thing that we're doing today electronically at a different pace. And she used a pen name because those letters could have become visible to other people. And she chose the pen name Abelard. And Abelard was a 12th century monk who was in love with, well, his lover, and they were separated because others felt that that relationship was inappropriate. And so they wrote letters. So Abelard was a writer of letters. Peter Abelard, the 12th century monk, his mother's name was Eloise, as was my mother's, hence the link. My father, when he wanted a business of his own, called it Abelard Management Services. And he retired that when he retired, and I took it over. When I needed a business, there was the family business back again. So Abelard was reborn. And interestingly, all of those letters, all of my history growing up, all of my misdemeanors, they're all written down, and my sister has them all. I'll get them eventually. So, Abelard was fine. My mother died, as I say, on the 4th of December 2011, and about 3 months later, it would have been about this time of year, I remember I woke up, and I thought, the business, it's mine now. And then I had this real sense of, well, who the hell was it before? And I realised that a lot of what I've been doing, emotionally, not logically, not factually, but emotionally, was tied to my parents and the things they had done, and was doing things because of them. And I thought that's really interesting. I wonder what other emotional blockages I've got in my head. And I started spending time really trying to understand what emotions are and how they affect us and how they affect our choices. And I can talk to you individually afterwards if you want to explore that topic a bit more, but the key thing that I learned was to tag and isolate emotions as I felt. Right now, a little bit nervous, a little bit hoping things go okay, hoping I don't drop the clicker, all those sorts of things are going on. I can recognise that and I can use that energy. It's used to tie me up and lock me up. I used to get, if I got angry, I would hold the anger for ages. Most emotions stick with us for about that long, unless we choose to hold on to them. Choose to hold on to love, joy, happiness, memories of our loved ones. Let go of the anger. Let go of the disappointment. Because that way you'll build a better world. And along with that emotional awareness, there was something else going on in my life right now. Because I think, partly because I was kind of a bit depressed about losing my mother, a bit upset about that, whatever, I regret. I stopped exercising, I got a bit heavy, I got a bit out of shape. And I started showing symptoms of things like indigestion, permanent indigestion, go to the doctor, they give you medicine. They gave me medicine for it. They told me I'd take the medicine for the rest of my life. I kind of thought I didn't want to do that. I've been asthmatic all my life. It got worse. I was now taking steroid inhalers instead of just using them when I had an attack. I was trying to keep this stuff at bay every day. I didn't do that either. And there was a point when I changed what I thought about it. And this came from the emotional awareness that I was building up. But I was angry with myself, and I needed to let that go. And as soon as I did, I started eating better. I started taking more care of exercise and make sure I'm not super fit, but I exercise regularly. I eat well. I've lost the weight. I don't take the drugs. None of them. Completely symptom-free. And that has given me enormous mental resilience and physical well-being. Those things, your body, look after it. It's the only one you've got. And if you don't look after it, it'll come back and bite you. But those things, emotional awareness, physical well-being, mental resilience, taken together with great signposting, really do build a better future for you and everyone around you. Sheryl Sandberg, I talked a bit about Facebook before the internet. Sheryl Sandberg was the chief operating officer of Facebook. She said this: for me, the biggest change has been in working with my clients to help them understand how to build resilience into their business and into themselves. Because without that, they have no business, they have no self, they lose everything. We are in a very difficult time, I think, with coronavirus. We don't really know what's happening with it. It is a time of great change. And I've seen a number of those over the years. I was born just before John F. Kennedy was shot. And I don't really remember that. Lots of people who were around then said they remember exactly what they were doing on that day and at that time when the news was about. I do remember what I was doing exactly when 9/11 happened, when the airliners flew into the Twin Towers in New York. These are things that change the world. They change it sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But if you hold on to the emotions of love and joy and happiness and togetherness and community spirit and helping others, and let go of the anger and the disappointment and the frustration, then these things can come and they will change us. But you will come out the other side having taken the opportunities in the right way for you. And that to me is what matters. Our better future, our collective better future is in our hands. It's not written yet. It can be whatever we decide we want to make it. And in my view, if you want to build a better future, start with you. Build a better you. Thank you very much.